and ask the clerk to call the roll.
Roll call. Hill.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Ramirez.
Here.
Kane. Bynum.
Here. Clerk, are there any revisions to our meeting tonight?
There are no revisions.
And we have no minutes to approve, so we will move right into our agenda. The first item is an ordinance providing for county administrator succession. A little bit of background. The first two items came to the full commission at our last full commission meeting, and by a vote of the commission were sent to this standing committee for a little bit more review. These were items that were placed on that agenda by the mayor's office. And we had asked that they come back to a standing committee for review and discussion. And with that, we do have Council Wendy Green here, and I'm not necessarily asking you to make a presentation unless you choose to. But the first item is an ordinance that would amend the Unified Government Code to provide for county administrator succession during periods when the administrator has been dismissed or resigned. And I think that is what has been published. However, it extends, I believe, beyond that, like if the administrator were to have a prolonged absence, for example. Do you want to add something to that? Also, I'm sorry, we do have Chief of Staff Irene Caudillo here, and you may as well make your way up to the front if you don't mind. Just for clarification of like what an intent might be, that sort of thing. I do want to direct you to the language in the first ordinance. Because first of all, I would say as published, the introductory sentence, if you will, to the ordinance provides for county administrator succession during times where the county administrator has been dismissed or has resigned. Personally, I think it is beyond that scope. And require a succession list of at least 3 qualified appointed administrative officers. So I'm open for the discussion. First of all, I'll just start with if there's comments or questions. Does anybody have a comment or a question as it pertains to this item? And if not, I will ask a question that I asked. I'm sorry, did you have one? Please, go ahead, Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess Commissioner Bynum did bring the word that is coming to mind, like the intent. Because up to this point, I feel, our administrator anytime he is absent, he does a good job of appointing an acting administrator, either be one of our already selected assistant county administrators. And I would assume that if there was a situation where he had a prolonged absence or dismissed or resigned, that one of the ACAs would be the ones to take over the interim until we were to hire a permanent administrator. I just feel like the process is already there and it's been being used. Up until just recently, our administrator was gone for a few days and ACA Cobbins was chosen as acting administrator. And so I feel like the processes are there and I don't know, I feel it's redundant.
Commissioner Kane.
I think this is a solution to a problem we don't have. I think everything's in play the way it's supposed to. And that just exactly what Christian said, that somebody's gone, we pick somebody, it could pick Rodney, it could pick anybody. But it's kind of like who the mayor pro tem is. In my mind, it's the exact same thing. Whoever mayor pro tem is, when the mayor's gone, that's who takes their place. I guess I'm confused of why we're looking at either one of these.
Commissioner Davis.
Thank you. Oh, this is a little out there. So I do have some questions because I know at full commission, we had a quite lively discussion on in the event something were to happen, then what? And it kind of went into a lot of places on kind of succession planning. And it was really regarding the mayor pro tem and kind of where things would kind of fall down the line. But I do have a question just regarding what the charter speaks to or rules of procedure speaks to in regards to the acting administrator, because that's really what we're discussing. We're saying the acting administrator clause is what satisfies this. So in the event that, let's say, something were to happen, the county administrator is not available and the county administrator did not appoint an acting administrator. Does the charter speak to that?
Actually, Wendy Green, UG Legal, Section 2-102 already speaks to that. If the county administrator did not appoint somebody, then well, it's not only 2-102, it would also be, and could the presentation or the slides that I had, please be put up? Thank you. You would first go to section 2-81. One of the powers of the mayor is that he can appoint and dismiss with the consent of the Unified Board of Commissioners, the county administrator. So you would first look to that, but then you would also look to the existing, you would also look to 2-101, which also says the mayor shall appoint and dismiss with the consent of the commission, a county administrator. And this, where it says that during the absence or disability, the mayor, with the consent of the commission, may at any time revoke a designation that had been previously there. But if there is no designation, then you go back to those other two statute or the other two ordinances, which state that the mayor would simply ask for a special session. And you could go into executive session. He could tell you all who he would recommend. You could discuss it. You'd go back into open session. And that's when you could take action on who the acting county administrator would be at that time. And you could discuss if you were going to go out into a countywide search, if it was going to be a permanent thing, if you needed to find a permanent county administrator, if it was just a temporary thing, that the current county administrator was just had a medical issue or for whatever reason just was not going to be able to act for a while. If this was just trying to set the acting county administrator, and it was just going to be a temporary thing, you could discuss that. But there's already a procedure in our rules under 2-102 and the previous two rules for that. As well as if the county administrator had designated an acting county administrator, and for whatever reason, the mayor determined it should be somebody else, he could do the same thing, ask for a special session, go into executive session, discuss with you all why he didn't think that that person should be the acting county administrator at that time. You all could go back into an open session and vote accordingly.
And just to follow up to that, a contract of the appointee would not necessarily be mandated at that time. I mean, that would be at the discretion, right, of who is appointed, if they accepted that appointment position, and whether or not they would want to enter into a contract. Do I have that correct?
Correct. That would be whether or not this was a temporary thing or a permanent thing. And so it would be are they just going to be the interim county administrator, or is this a permanent, we want you to be the county administrator and therefore we're going to enter into an a contract type position, correct?
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mhm.
Just a quick comment. Oh, Commissioner Hill, go ahead.
Okay, just trying to get clarity. So when I initially heard this, it was because several, including the mayor and both the pro tems, were on a trip together. So if something would happen and all three of those positions were not available, then what would happen? So with both the at-larges, which would have been one of the pro tems, and the mayor is not available, then what would happen?
Well, this doesn't cover that situation at all. Yeah, this is only for the succession of the county administrator. So in that particular situation, this doesn't solve anything. that would be for a larger discussion about how do we solve for succession of the mayor or the at-large positions.
Okay.
Commissioner Hill, that's a good point, and I think deserves some discussion and possibly a solution. But it's separate from this county administrator issue, and so certainly I think could be an item that is requested to be taken up by this committee, because we do need to know, we need the charter or an ordinance to speak to that. But doesn't deal with that. So, Commissioner Kane, did you have a comment?
Stay focused on this one.
Okay, I want to say just real quickly that one question I had, the mayor had shared that one of his concerns with part of why he's bringing it is because it was his understanding that an acting county administrator didn't carry the same authorities as the county administrator. But I discussed that with Wendy Council Green last week, and in fact, an acting county administrator has all the authorities that the county administrator has. So that's not a gap, if that makes sense. Are there other comments or concerns with this first? Yes, sir. Commissioner Davis.
So I think what I'm gathering is the question has been asked and answered, and I think we all could say we're satisfied with what's currently in place, which is in the event that the county administrator is unavailable, the charter does speak to this, and particularly Section 2102 of the acting county administrator. What I would like is for us at another time to engage the conversation regarding succession for the mayor and the two at-larges. I don't think that has to be something that's super complicated or anything. We've just kind of created a list. But at another time, I would request that, Madam Chair, just so that we can make this time productive. But there's nothing else I can really add to this. And thank you all for the clarification.
Right, absolutely.
So if
Commissioner,
we don't take any action, it's just killed, right?
believe if there's no action on the item, it's just done. Will council please confirm?
This is Z Bishop with the legal department. Yes, that is correct.
With that being said, on the item pertaining to the county administrator succession, I apologize. I need to follow my proper processes and procedures. And I will ask the clerk if we've had any comments from the public.
No comments were received.
And is there anyone online indicating they wish to speak to the item?
There are no hands raised online.
And is there anyone here in person to speak to the item? Okay. All right, and at that point, is there any motion for this first item? Calling once again for a motion on item 1. Okay. We have no motion, no action on this item. Anything further I need to do as far as being legal on this item?
This is Z Bishop with legal. No, Commissioner.
Thank you very much. Second item, again, remanded to this committee from the full commission, an ordinance prohibiting county administrator from terminating or disciplining subordinates due to an unfavorable personnel action. I think we have, again, same arena, if you will, actions, potential actions by the county administrator who might be unfairly, if you possibly perceiving, treating an employee, basically, is what it boils down to. I believe, and this is why I asked Counselor Wendy Green to join us, that we may have remedies in place in a situation like this, should a situation like this occur. For one thing, would be a huge HR issue with whatever legal consequences may arise from that. We also have the option of an ethics complaint with our ethics administrator. So there's a couple avenues that could be pursued if a situation were to rise to this kind of level. I don't know if you want to, Irene, I don't know if you want to expand on any of this. I don't want to misstate the intent that the mayor had with bringing these items.
Well, I will tell you on both items, he was really saying there was some gray area. So I won't speak to the first one since you've already finished that one, but the second one in particular, that was a concern, came up in regard to previous legal counsel and previous county administrator, as well as kind of some actions that he was asking staff to take. And what I can tell you is it was him asking about actions that a staff member can take who oversees, of course, all of staff, and the possibility of it being unethical for a person being disciplined that can act or have staff stop action because the mayor or commission has no authority over staff. So there's just, he just felt there was some gray area. So if there was the possibility of a county administrator that can take action to stop staff, what authority, does mayor and commission? This is what I understand of this one.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's my understanding that if it were a scenario where we had an administrator who was departing, if I understand correctly, once that action occurs, then that administrator doesn't have that standing anymore, right? And an acting administrator would have been named. Can you clarify, Counselor, if I'm speaking correctly?
A situation that did arise after we had this discussion, it depends on the situation in which the county administrator would be departing. So if it was departing because the county administrator had been terminated, that is correct. They no longer have any authority to do anything. If it is a situation in which the county administrator has simply announced retirement and is finalizing how that is happening, or that they are resigning and is finalizing the terms of that resignation, then that would be a different scenario.
And in the second case, what would be, again, the remedy for that based on existing charter codes, ordinances on?
If a county administrator who had announced that they are resigning and was trying to get an employee to do something that was against a mayor or commission's desire that they had communicated, then the employee could go to the mayor and let them know what is happening, could go to HR and let them know what was happening, who could then go to the mayor or a commission member and let them know what was happening. The mayor could then call for a special session with, obviously with the full commission. You could go into executive session where the mayor could explain to the commissioners what was going on. You could then go out, back up into an open meeting and can take action accordingly, which could be the termination of
Okay.
the county administrator at that point. So there are some remedies within the code. How fast they would be, it would just depend on how fast you could get a special session going.
Commissioner Kane?
Well, once again, she just said it, that there's something in play. I'm on mayor number 4 and administrator number 4, and it's never happened before. And I don't remember it happened before I got here. So I feel the same way about this one as I did the last one.
Other questions, comments? You look studious. Okay. I will, if there's no other questions or comments from the standing committee members, I will ask the clerk if there is anyone online that would want to make a comment.
There are no hands raised online.
And did we receive anything in writing from the public?
There were no comments received.
And is there anyone present to speak to the item? Seeing none. This will be your option to bring a motion on this item. Commissioner Davis.
Just question. So just looking through our charter, I guess like the closest to like a whistleblower policy, which is kind of what we're getting at here, would be the Ethics Commission in that process. Do I have that correct?
I would say, this is Wendy Green with Legal. I would say so. For this particular thing, yes, they could, that employee could go to the ethics, probably, and then the ethics administrator could go to, someone else to report it. I don't know how fast that process would actually work to help, though,
Gotcha, gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay.
in this specific situation.
Yeah, yeah, because I was just kind of thinking through the different scenarios of what recourse someone would have immediately, whereas a lot of the recourse that we have in place is there. But if you're fired, you're fired. And if you're losing wages, you're losing wages. That is far more immediate than kind of a long-standing process. I don't know if that necessarily means I don't think what's currently proposed here is necessarily an answer. I think it was Commissioner Townsend who talked about the ability of undoing a particular action. Then my brain goes to, how do you prove that the alleged action was due to whatever said disciplinary actions that's there? So it just gets very, very hairy there for me to really be able to prove it. But my last question is, do we explain to our UG employees, particularly our employees that are interacting with elected officials, what their rights are and just what recourse they have in these particular situations? Are UG employees trained on the Ethics Commission and what, I wouldn't say powers, but what tools they have? How preventative are we here?
Commissioner, this is Z Bishop with the legal department. Having handled HR in the past, I can tell you that, yes, UG employees are informed as to what their rights are. And actually, many of our employees, perhaps most of our employees, are covered by federal whistleblower laws as well. Especially if they are in any way grant funded under federal grants, they are covered by federal whistleblower laws. But there are protections in place, and UG employees are taught about that in orientation. And we do also send out periodic reminders regarding ethical duties as well as ethical protections.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Is there a motion on this item? And one final request for a motion on the item. No motion, this item will not move forward. And I want to thank Irene and Council Green for the conversation that we've had leading up and the briefing and for taking your time to be here. And thank you, team. Third and final item for tonight is a presentation on the Interdepartmental Grants Coalition 2025 and future grant pursuits. And with us to present, we have Alyssa Mercy with our Planning and Urban Design Department, and Alyssa, I will hand it to you.
Great, thank you. Again, my name is Alyssa Marcy. I am the Long Range Planner in Planning and Urban Design, and I'm here to provide an update on our Interdepartmental Grants Coalition, including our proposed 2025 future pursuits. So please note that most of these are projects, not grants specifically. I also want to add that we have several of our members online from various departments. So if you do have questions pertaining to any particular project, they're probably more equipped to answer it if it relates to their department. Okay, so just a little bit of maybe a refresh for some. This group started in December of 2022. At that time, we did not have a grants manager. I'm actually not sure if we had a permanent CFO yet, so not a whole lot of structure going on interdepartmentally in terms of our grant pursuits. So we came together across departments to talk about how to go after grants, how to prioritize them, how not to step on each other's toes. There were instances of different departments going after the same grant, so, you know, competing against ourselves, which is not a great look. And then also just kind of figuring out, are there overlaps where we can maybe do projects that reach multiple department goals? So let's see, we have about 13 departments that participate at this time. We also have USD 500 that recently joined too, because we found that there's even overlap with the school district priorities. And then we also have one member from the Kansas Infrastructure Hub. And for those of you that don't know, that is a free technical assistance initiative that's funded by KDOT to all municipalities in Kansas, and they help with identifying grants or identifying match opportunities and things like that. So we started reviewing our priority projects list back in December of 2023, and then worked through 2024 to come up with our list for this year. I do want to add that even prior to the directive from the county administrator, this group prioritized no match grants. We know that we have a limited financial capacity, and so that remains one of our priorities. In part, that's also looking at how do we utilize the Build Kansas Fund, which will provide match dollars for specifically BIL grant programs. And then looking at other ways that we can eliminate matches, whether that's leveraging existing grants that we have or other kinds of opportunities. Another thing that we did when we first started in 2022 is formed our go, no-go criteria. And this was really a way for us to be more strategic about going after grants and making sure that, you know, do we have the staff to write the grant? Do we have the staff to implement the grant? All those types of things. So we have 2 tiers in which we look through grant opportunities and try to make sure that we're really prepared to apply for a grant. This is just a short list. This is not everything, but these are just the grants that we applied for in 2024 through this coalition. Obviously, not all of them were awarded, but just to show you kind of the range of different programs, some of them have no match requirements, others do, but we are looking at, you know, different types of grants as much as possible. Which brings me to today. There's a big question mark federally when it comes to grant programs. We all know that. So unfortunately, we have seen programs that have disappeared already. We have, you know, heard the horror stories from other municipalities and organizations having grants, you know, taken back and clawed back. So in my discussions with a lot of our federal agencies, it's still kind of an unknown. So we're just tracking that as we can. You know, unfortunately, I think this also means that we're just going to have to reframe a lot of our grant pursuits. As you might have heard, Justice 40 or disadvantaged community priorities is not a thing with the current administration. So we do have to kind of reframe our approach. That also means that we're no longer competitive for grants, whereas before we were a disadvantaged community as KCK, and that often gave us a leg up, or even sometimes it meant that matches were waived. So we're not sure if that will continue. And hopefully we can avoid some of this, but we've had neighbors over in Casey Mo have full grants taken back, so something to keep note of. Okay. So now the list, and again, I just want to note that these are pursuits, most of which don't have current identified grants for obvious reasons that I just mentioned, is a big part of that. But these are, a lot of these projects are carried over from previous years. So this is the third iteration of this prioritized list. And a lot of these projects were not fully funded, or maybe they weren't awarded the grants at the time. And then we have a few additional new grants that we've added, or new projects that we've added to the list. So the first is microtransit program. We just launched our microtransit route in Edwardsville last year, or was it 2023? And the Northeast this year. Those are pilot programs, so to continue those programs, we do need to find additional funding. We have not quite identified funding for that, but it is on the radar for transportation. The next is, and this is a pretty broad one, but the on-house facility, that's been a conversation as of recent. We know that we need a permanent location. That's going to take dollars. It's also going to take dollars to provide the services needed that should be accompanied with that facility. So that's something that community development is looking into with our county administrator. Another effort of community development is this choice neighborhood group, which I think they might have come already to standing committee about, but essentially this idea, this is a planning grant that they are looking at with KCK Housing Authority, and that's to evaluate an area that might be a potential location for a mixed income and mixed use community.
Alyssa, is this a planning grant?
Yes, yep. And then the last one, also community development led, is supportive services for youth. This would be more of a sub-grant program. So this would be the UG community development offering sub-grants to nonprofits that provide youth services. There's, been a little bit of a change with community development and trying to look at their department a little bit more holistically. The next one is also pretty broad, but it includes a lot of the riverfront development and the levee trails. We still have a funding gap with the levee trails and a lot of the riverfront, especially in relation to how are we going to actually connect the Rock Island Bridge once it's complete to other parts of KCK. Obviously, that area is a bit tricky when it comes to access. And then the levy betterment, we've been looking for funding for the past couple of years. So, but as we develop and hopefully when Rock Island Bridge is complete, we can have some more amenities, community amenities to offer. Okay, next one. This really relates to all of our consent decree work. So that's all of our combined sewer overflow systems. The project cost for this is a little low. I think it's closer to $1 billion total. Again, these are those required projects that we have to do under consent decree with the federal government. And there's always a funding gap for that. So we're just constantly looking for funding. These two are for bridge projects, both Kansas and Central Avenue, which we also, I know, always are looking for appropriations as well in the state, but these are big ticket items, typically anywhere from $60 to $100 million a piece. So there's always a need for finding additional funding for those. And then these next two projects were actually in the previous standing committee agenda. They have started a little bit, but are still in need of fully funding. But these are in relation to intersection improvements, specifically to hopefully do before the World Cup happens in 2026, since State Avenue especially will be one of those well-traveled roads. And then the next one, this should say 99th and parallel, not 98th. But that's yet another intersection improvement. And as they mentioned in the previous committee, we did apply for funding for this. We just have not, or we requested funding. We just have not heard back about that. Okay. Turkey Creek is a longstanding project. This is one as well that we've been working with the Rosedale Development Association on. And that again is when, the Army Corps of Engineer and, FEMA came in to do that big flood control project. They created the trail. We still don't have public access to it, which is a bit tricky. So still looking at finding funding to figure out how we can create public access. And we threw this one in, it's super duper broad, but World Cup preparation, I think we had in mind for this, more of a beautification approach. So are there things we can do to downtown KCK or the Legends or places where people will be frequenting to maybe work on facade improvements? Are there sidewalks that need to be improved? Is there street art that we could do? Signage? Do we want signage for World Cup? That kind of thing. So kind of a catch-all, but keeping our eyes out for any grants that might help us kind of improve our look for the World Cup. Okay, moving into some Parks and Rec priority projects. So Rosedale Arch celebrated its 100th year last year. It does need some additional work as well as Mount Marty and kind of the trail system around there. So that is one of their priority projects for 2025.
We'll have a Commissioner Ramirez on that
Oh, okay, go
Mount
ahead.
Marty item.
Okay.
Thank you, Alyssa. And unfortunately, we were supposed to have an earmark from
Yep.
Congresswoman Davids. But with the new budget and the new continuing resolution that was passed, House Republicans took out all earmarks. So unfortunately, this project will not receive a federally earmarked that we were supposed to receive from Congresswoman Davids. We're hoping next year that we'll be able to do the same thing. But it was very unfortunate. We were very looking forward to that.
Thank you for that update. Okay. Okay, so the next for parks is Piper land acquisition. This is specifically so that they can acquire land to build a park in Piper, which I believe does not have any parks currently. So
Could you say that again? I couldn't hear you.
yeah, so but building a,
No parks in Piper, right?
that's what I was told.
Please
That's-
proceed.
Okay, I missed the inside joke there, but that's okay. Okay, self-explanatory. And then the last one for parks is looking at doing an assessment for the Parkwood pool and turning that into a more advanced aquatic center. Okay, and this is our last priority project. Back in 2023, the health department did that countywide urban heat island study, which is really great. I think it's gonna be a big deal too in 2026 when you actually see where people are gonna be, and then you look at where the hottest places in the county were. There's definitely some overlap there. So we're continuously looking at this. Parks does a lot of implementation just in tree planting, but this can also look like covered bus shelters or other kinds of shaded options. And that is all I have, so.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased to have the report brought to us. Are there comments and questions from this committee? Commissioner Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question, did we ever hire that one grant writer position? Or I know there were a few grant writing positions that had been discussed, but
Are you referring to the grants manager position?
maybe grants man, yeah.
She is here in this room.
Oh, yeah, well, you come in, I mean, yeah.
Wonderful, please. Please introduce yourself, and I'm sorry we have not met you.
Hello, I'm Lupe Valdivino. I'm the new grants administrator. I've previously employed with Mid-America Regional Council, MARC, for 17 years. I was their grant accountant and also did grant compliance. So I'm pretty diverse with federal and state grants and non-federal share and match of that nature.
Excellent. And could I have your name one more time?
Lupe Valdivino.
And if I could clarify real quick, this is Shelley, CFO, Shelley Knieven. So as a grant administrator, yikes. As a grant administrator, that's all you have to do is give me a bad mic, just for future reference. She is in charge of coordinating with the departments on the compliance side. So as you all know, we have a single audit that's done of all federal funds that we receive, and we've had some issues. But she's not actually writing grants, so I wanted to be clear. In the budget, there were some interdepartmental or intergovernmental affairs positions that were put on hold, given the financial position of the county and the city. We didn't eliminate them so that the job description exists, and if we are able to fund those, then we could, and those positions would help to write the grants. So Alyssa has been wonderful to convene this group, to help make sure the departments are coordinating, they're not competing against themselves. And now that we have Lupe, she will make sure that we are administering and compliant with the federal regs.
Fantastic.
Mhm.
Commissioner Kane, did you have a comment? And then Commissioner Ramirez.
So she's not a grant writer? Welcome anyway.
We're still glad you're here. We do need what you bring, so thank you very much. We do also need a grant writer. If I'm understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, kind of the departments are sort of writing their own grants. Okay. Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Alyssa, and for the coalition group coming together for doing this work. You know, it's important, you know, within our own budget constraints, but we're out leveraging, you know, state and federal dollars. And it's, I'm trying to pick my words carefully. It is a travesty what is happening federally, and all of these grant dollars and all of these municipalities, just like ours, that are in desperate need of money to do the work that we were elected to do and what staff was hired to do. And so I thank you for continuing to fight for it and to keep us updated on what is happening. I hope that nothing like that happens here, where we have to give back or we're completely shut off from money, because that would be devastating to the community. A lot of our programs, a lot of our departments are, like our health department, are very fully grant funded. And so it's, you know, our health department already doesn't get enough that they need. Planning and parks don't get enough that they need as well, just from us. So I thank you for all the hard work you're doing. Welcome. We know not only do we need grant writers, but we need people to make sure we're in compliance so that we don't get hit from the federal government for doing something wrong. And I hope this budget cycle, we can fill one or two of those intergovernmental affair positions so that we can get additional grant writers to keep going and keep applying for all the grants as much as we can. So again, thank you for all that you guys do.
Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your presentation on this evening. Just a couple of quick questions. Number one, I didn't see Quindera Ruins anywhere. Is that something that grants were written for it or anything?
No, it wasn't, oh gosh. Okay. Whew. No, and that actually has been on our list historically each year. And I know that there's been money that's been set aside for that, and there's also, we're waiting for the appropriations. The reason why we haven't internally put it on the priority list is more so because how do I say this? I think the challenge that we're facing is where does the UG fit in the implementation of that? Because there's so many voices at the table that it hasn't been clear to me exactly, even which department is supposed to be implementing these things. I mean, we're definitely partaking in all of the community planning that's been going on, and we're tracking all of these things, and we're going to the meetings. But until that is figured out, it seems like if we can't all agree on who is in charge of what, we can't use all of this money that's already been set aside for this place,
So it's a no because we can't agree on who owns what part of the property, basically, right?
Yeah.
Then,
Shelley can even, again, CFO, and Rodney could certainly illuminate more on this, but we are going through an RFP process to do a master plan for Condero Ruins, which has funding that was part of the Cerner settlement. So as that process moves forward, that will help clarify what is the vision for the area? So then we can look for grants that would align with that. So we do have an active process proceeding that is funded from the Cerner settlement, and Rodney's leading the group of looking at the proposals that were submitted.
thought there was $1 million allocated. Okay. So
That is the Cerner money that I'm talking about. So when Cerner entered into a settlement with the UG, there were several things that they committed to, and $1 million was contributed towards Quindara Ruins.
But as of now,
Mhm.
nothing has been done, except I know, I heard you say cleanup, but that was a little.
We're just launching the master planning process, so there is something going on.
So my next question was about Parkwood. Do we suspect, on here you said to be determined about the project cost? Are we no, yeah. Or do we think we will still move forward with all the planning that has been done, with the needs assessment, or is this going to be held back because of the federal government?
I will let Angel or Matt, who might be online, answer that. I do want to go back quickly though to the Quindaro point, because I think it's important to say that just because it's not this group's priority, it doesn't mean it's not a UG priority. It's just that for us, we have no way really at this point of getting involved until someone takes leadership and we can then support them financially, right? So I will just see if
Angel,
Angel.
she did have her hand up.
Okay.
We do have Angel online and you are able to speak. Ms. Ferrera, if you would unmute yourself, you are able to speak.
She looks unmuted from here, but
Can you hear me?
Oh, there's.
Hello?
We can hear you.
yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so Commissioner Hill, we are preparing to bring the assessment to the commission probably in May, still finalizing that date. So we haven't made any decisions, hard decisions on the recommendations from that study, but we are looking forward to further conversation and some guidance from the commission.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Kane.
Okay. Now, I disagree that Quindaro is not on there, and I want it on there, and the next time you give a presentation, it needs to be on there. We've been working on this for a long time. The money, some of the monies, small portion of it is set aside. There's 5 different entities that can't get along. And I actually think that we should take it ourselves and run with it because they've been so difficult. The governor said they would give them the money if the 5 of them would get along. Then they came to commission meeting and all 5 of them kept doing this. So anytime that there's something that talks about a park or something that talks about a destination area that we're trying to bring them to, if we're gonna mention, the river area, that Quindaro should be brought up. And it's a shame that it's not. That's a huge part of our history. We shouldn't forget our history. And in fact, we need to remember it in a better way than what we're remembering it right now. So anytime the folks are doing that, I respectfully request that's one of the top projects that we have. Because originally when we did it years ago, we thought we had, and I'm talking, Joe Ritton was the mayor, so you're talking 16 years ago. We went down there, built the gazebo, did all that stuff because we knew we had monies coming, and for different reasons than what this current administration, once again, the 5 groups couldn't get along. So this has been going on for over 20 years. But I think as a commission, that we need to let the people know that we haven't forgot what happened in Quindaro, and that it's important it's part of our past, and it needs to be part of our future.
I agree, Commissioner, and so it will put that as a request from this committee that we always maintain that on this list. I appreciate that. Anything else, Commissioner Hill? Okay, Commissioner Davis.
Thank you. I'll just add on the Quindaro piece. There is a board, if you all kind of remember, the redevelopment board, which is kind of went into a lot of different directions, but Quindaro is included on that. And I don't know if Commissioner Hill, you were on the commission at the time it was established, but you probably do have a appointee on that board that oversees this process. Quindaro is included within that process. I believe a former ACA, Gordon Criswell, is the chair of that particular committee. I'll also add on the Quindaro piece, we'll be coming to NCD on the 31st. Is a portion of Quindaro is technically in the land bank. And so we're going to be formally identifying it as a hold. That way we can better, A, know what we have, and then B, keep track of that portion that we own of the Quindaro ruins. But I do agree that it should be on the list, but it is very complicated, very, very complicated. There's a lot of parties involved. This also brought to my mind ARPA. So I know that we are, and everybody kind of nod their heads, so you know where I'm going here. So I know that we have allocated kind of the remaining funds. Those funds have been encumbered. If we don't have it scheduled, Madam Chair, I would request at some point just an update on how those projects are going. I think we have yet to do an exhaustive storytelling a piece on what ARPA has done to our community. That was one of the first initiatives I got involved in when I was elected, and every district has been touched one way, shape, or form by those dollars. And I think we can just better tell our story and hopefully leverage those stories and reports and that data for future grants ahead of time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Commissioner, did you have an item? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question comment is stemming off of what Commissioner Davis said. Yes, we have this redevelopment board that we created and we all have appointees to. My question is to Interim ACA Lucas, do you work with, interact so that we're not duplicating efforts? As we've all been saying, that we've already have a lot of hands in the pot. And so, we created this redevelopment board, and so I want to make sure that what they're doing is assisting you and not duplicating the work you're doing.
I haven't experienced any duplication. In fact, we just received 6 proposals for our RFQ for the Quindaro ruins, and next week we make our selection. So, and Shelley and Reggie have confirmed we do have $1 million from Cerner allocated.
Excellent. Thank you very much. just, I don't want to belabor this because this has been an excellent presentation, but what I am curious about, and I won't go too far afield, but we have a grants policy in existence right now. And Alyssa, I don't know if you can, I'm not trying to catch you off guard, but we have a policy in place right now, and I'm guessing that's a commission adopted grants policy. Or CFO can even, just a couple of highlights of that policy. And would you say within it, are there places that should be strengthened or fortified, or do we need to look at it, I guess, is my broad question, please.
Absolutely. Shelley Knieven, CFO. We do have a grants policy. It was adopted by the commission. In a broad sense, dollar amounts under 50,000 and below can be administratively approved. How the policy reads now is in order to apply and accept, we bring that to the commission before we apply. My understanding is that was so that we didn't apply for a grant that later we needed to turn down. We didn't want to be in that position. And even recently, we had some larger grants that we bring to the commission, anything over the 50, where the commission had a lot of thoughts about the structure of the application and the partnership that was proposed. And so we really felt like there's a reason why that policy is in place in terms of the process. I will say that other organizations do only bring the grants for approval if they're awarded. But again, we're a little unique in that there may be more of a desire for input at the front end. And we don't think it's a bad thing, so that you all are aware, we're applying for, we have now identified a specific grant. We're applying for it. Here's the broad brush stroke of what's being proposed to get the support of the commission, so that when we get to the point of if we receive the grant, then it is approved. But we have had internal conversations and researched how do other places do it. And there are a lot that do it just when they're awarded. But again, I can think of examples here, several actually, that probably wouldn't have been a great process for us, because we may have been awarded something that because of the way we structured it, there was a different direction that was desired. So it's kind of nice doing it all up front. That way we're all on the same page. We all know the money we're going after. And then we have in the policy, there is a requirement if there's a grant match of more than $10,000, even at, let's say it's 50,000, but the grant match is 25, we bring those forward too. And then when we receive those grants, we're supposed to be notifying the commission that we've received them. Honestly, by policy, I'm not sure if we're doing that. And so we've been sort of working on that front end process, because I think during COVID, it kind of fell by the wayside, and we were doing some things that, you know, we've had, as you guys know, we've had lots of late additions, or it's a rush because we need to get this approved so we can apply next week. And so we're really trying to educate people to plan ahead. Here's the policy, and just, you know, follow the process. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's great. It really is helpful. And go ahead, Commissioner Davis.
I was just saying on that note, how like tapped in or kind of knowledgeable are we just within that grants team, Dr. Knieven, within your team, on what is currently out there? Because I think some of the concerns and like some of the things that I'm seeing is if we don't have staff that is on whatever said subscription or is getting whatever said notification that the grant is available, then you find out a week before, then it creates this, okay, let's fit this into a very, very tight commission schedule, which at times can be very difficult getting a quorum and getting all of us together. And so are we doing kind of this, I don't want to use the word audit, but just this checklist of like, here are the foundations and here are kind of the big donors and here are the people that give and work with local governments and here's, you know, here are funders that will find our profile, our type of community attractive are we looking or building out a menu of kind of who to stay tapped into so that these opportunities do not come as surprises?
And that's a part of the intergovernmental committee is doing that. But it's also people within the departments that have those ongoing relationships with
Great.
federal or state agencies. And there's a variety of people, like in the health department, there's 2 people in particular designated
Yep.
to, as part of their job function, to find grants. And there's some listservs, government, or I'm sorry, grants.gov has a listing of all the available. I looked at it today looking for something for a topic we were discussing with environmental services, just to see if anything's out there. So we are looking at those things constantly, and the departments are very good about being aware. And then Alyssa has really supplemented that. She brought, for example, the Kansas State Department of Transportation in for them to go through, here's all the programs we have. So maybe the public works people might know that, but there's some parts and pieces that might benefit another department. So just educating ourselves and our department folks.
Yeah, let's you.
I just want to add to that too. I think a lot of us are subscribed to those listservs and share the grant. That's part of every meeting. But also to your points about other grant opportunities, we're already looking into foundation grants and other nonprofit grants because, I mean, the listserv that we are getting from grants.gov is pretty slim lately.
Sure.
So.
Well, and you might remember the health department just brought forward a foundation-funded grant for the Health Equity Task Force. So they are getting some success and traction for those types of things too.
Yeah. I mean, I do this outside of my work here at the commission, working philanthropy, so I'm familiar. So please do use me as a resource as well. Because what is the language that is used kind of throughout the metro is Wyandotte County is just not at the table, right? And that those words travel very, very fast as far as who is invited to apply, who is considered, who is within the network. And it's starting to change. Obviously, you all are doing a phenomenal job. Our health department, I think with particularly with the COVID response, it really put them on the map. But we have a lot of other UG departments that gather a lot of data, that do great work, that I also think should be thinking in this way of my work is good enough for philanthropy to consider. I think of our legal department, I think of our clerks department, think of our economic development department, what have you. So yeah, anything we can do obviously to help, but I'm really, really appreciative of you all in your work.
Thank you. That's good comments. Commissioner Ramirez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hearing this conversation, us having this conversation, but also at the same time, we've already said it, what is happening federally. I don't know if it'd be a good idea for the committee to possibly look at the policy and kind of make it less restrictive for them in the moment so that they can be more reactive to what is happening. Because as there was an example, they found out one, but they only had 1 week to apply. So I might be a good idea just in the federal environment that we're in, so that you staff have the ability to be more reactive to those situations, rather than having to wait on all 11 of us to give you the green light. And that may be something we might want to look into just for the interim during during this current administration.
Commissioner, that was exactly what I was going to say. Asking Mr. Lucas and Dr. Knieven and Ms. Marcy, I know that's not your name anymore. I'm requesting that we bring the grants policy to this committee. Because, for example, as you were discussing that, I was thinking, well, gosh, maybe it's time to bump that to 100 or 150,000 and make that threshold a little higher, just as an example. But I would really like this committee to have the opportunity to look at the policy that the commission did adopt. And again, not only in the current administration, but just in general, are there times that have changed that would require that maybe we do something a little bit different now. And I don't know what that would be, but I think it's fair that we go ahead and bring the policy to this committee and just have a presentation on it and maybe hear from the committee members of if something is really sticking out that we feel like, gosh, that's not pertinent anymore, or what have you. So I'm going to make that as a formal request for our committee, which, just to recap, so far tonight, I've heard requests. Number one from me and based on Commissioner Hill's question, we need to look at the succession of our electeds in the event of the tragedy happening. We need to look at that. We have had a request for an ARPA project update so that we're making sure that we share with our community the stories of what ARPA has done. And then now I'm making a request for this committee to have a presentation on the current grants policy. Anything else? Thank you so very much, all of you, for the good information and good presentation. It is impressive, the work you're getting done here for us. Other items tonight? Is there a second? Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Clerk, would you call roll?
Roll call, Hill, Davis,
Aye.
Ramirez,
Aye.
Kane, Bynum,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you so much. We are adjourned. Great meeting.